This is a brand new US-made system that's never been seen in action before, and it's reportedly achieving great success in bringing down Russian long-range Geran attack drones in Ukraine, the Tempest. So let's take a closer look at this system and the unique role it could fill in Ukraine's anti-drone air defenses. When Russia first invaded Ukraine in February 2022, unmanned airborne vehicles were an ancillary aspect of warfare, used primarily for reconnaissance and standoff strikes. But in less than 4 years, they've become critical elements of both offense and defense for both Russia and Ukraine. On the front lines, kamikaze FPV drones of both the GPS and fiber optic guided varieties dominate the skies, making any form of movement extremely dangerous. And deep in the rear of both nations' front lines, long-range attack drones like Russia's Geran family of loitering munitions and Ukraine's FP1 rain down hell on critical infrastructure like power stations and ports. Russia's relentless attacks on Ukrainian energy infrastructure with missiles and Gerans has left major cities like Kyiv, Kharkiv, Dnipro and Odessa in the dark, without heat or water for extended periods in the middle of a frozen winter. So, stopping these nightly bombardments has never been more critical. And now, Ukraine has a fearsome new arrow in its quiver. In early January 2026, Ukraine's Air Force Command Center released a video showing the Tempest system in action, proving that at least one such system was on active duty in Ukraine, with the Air Force the likeliest operator. Interestingly, a heavily blurred version of the same video was released the previous October, suggesting that the system had been in use in Ukraine for several months before its use was confirmed publicly. The Tempest system, made by the Virginia-based defense contractor V2X, was only unveiled in October at the Association of the United States Army, or AUSA, exhibition in Washington. No official announcement of the supply of the system to Ukraine has been made by the company or US military sources. However, the fact that a Western weapon system has been covertly tested or put into service with the Ukrainian armed forces is hardly an isolated case or controversial. Since Russia's invasion began, numerous Western companies have exposed their prototypes and emerging systems to actual combat in Ukraine, a situation that's evolved from ad hoc to official. In July 2025, Ukraine's foremost defense innovation cluster, Brave One, announced the launch of a new program called Test in Ukraine that allows foreign companies to test military technologies on the battlefield. According to Brave One, the initiative allows foreign companies and governments to create solutions for real war challenges, while receiving immediate feedback from military personnel and improving their products based on combat experience. It also streamlines procedures for acquiring permits to import the gear and addresses practical scenarios like what happens when testing equipment gets damaged or destroyed during battlefield trials. So, it's unsurprising that a system like the Tempest has been covertly put through its paces in Ukraine, like so many other weapon systems. Not all of these experiments work out. For example, Ukraine recently pulled the plug on new orders for HX-2 strike drones from German defense startup Helsing. The HX-2 was designed to operate autonomously, using AI for terminal guidance, mid-course navigation, and visual target acquisition. However, despite previously announced plans to acquire up to 6,000 of them, they reportedly failed to meet expectations during frontline testing by Ukraine's 14th Regiment. Although refuted by Helsing, the Ukrainian forces reported issues with takeoff, a lack of promised AI features, and vulnerability to electronic warfare jamming, which disrupted communication with operators. Based on the limited information available about its performance to date, the Tempest seems to be far more effective. In the footage shared by Air Force Command of the Tempest system in operation, an operator identified with the call sign Shorty says, "As of now, our crew has destroyed 21 Shahed drones. The Shahed 136 is the original Iranian drone from which the Geran family has been adapted. This machine keeps the sky locked down," he says, adding that his crew had previously been deployed to Ukraine's eastern regions, where they destroyed all targets they attacked there. Now, love watching Frontline tech actually prove itself in battle? Hit subscribe to the Military Show. We break these systems down while they're still smoking. So, what is the Tempest system, and what makes it such a compelling proposition for Ukraine's air defenses? In a nutshell, the V2X Tempest is a high-mobility vehicle with a launcher for AGM-114 Hellfire missiles that have been optimized with a counter-unmanned aerial systems or CUAS role. It's understood to fire the longbow variant of the missile, which carries a 20-pound warhead and uses radar instead of laser guidance to track and home in on targets. The system combines a twin longbow launcher with the radar, which is placed on a highly mobile, modular, and lightweight 4x4 chassis, a Can-Am Maverick X3 SSV by the looks of it. According to V2X, the buggy platform is built from commercial, off-the-shelf, or COTS components, delivering speed, modularity, lethal precision, and scalability in a lightweight configuration tailored for forward-deployed counter-UAS missions. It's a design philosophy that emphasizes speed, simplicity, and survivability. The 4x4 chassis means the Tempest can maneuver across rugged terrain with ease, keeping pace with mechanized infantry or special forces units in dynamic environments. Its low profile and high agility make it ideal for rapid shoot-and-scoot engagements, where threats are detected and intercepted, and the vehicle then quickly repositions before the enemy can respond with counter-battery fire or electronic targeting. These shoot-and-scoot capabilities are further enhanced by the fire-and-forget features of the longbow missile that the Tempest fires. Originally designed for the US Army's AH-64D and E-Apache longbow attack helicopters, it's the most advanced variant in the Hellfire missile family. The missile is equipped with an active millimeter-wave radar seeker that enables autonomous target acquisition and engagement in all weather conditions, without requiring continuous operator guidance. With a range of up to 5 miles, the missile allows the Tempest to neutralize larger Class 2 and 3 drones, loitering munitions, and even low-flying helicopters. To keep the system compact, efficient, and highly focused, V2X opted for a single radar-type radar as opposed to a full-spectrum sensor suite. This makes perfect sense given the system's focus mission profile. Although a radar-type radar is limited to a single direction, it provides focus-accurate target tracking and fire control data for the missile system, while keeping the vehicle's electronic signature low, allowing it to remain undetected until it's ready to strike. This kind of radar is not intended for wide area surveillance, but rather to serve as the final engagement sensor, receiving cues from external sources in a networked battlefield environment. And that's exactly the kind of integrated air defense setup in which Ukraine is deploying it, and where it may provide an incisive edge. To fend off the variety of aerial threats posed by Russia, which range from fighter jets and bombers through ballistic and cruise missiles fired from land, sea, and air, to drones of various sizes and ranges, Ukraine's air defenses consist of multiple layers. At the heart of Ukraine's anti-drone wall is a network of detection systems, including radar and thermal systems, which identify incoming drones, track them, and alert the components of the wall that shoot them down. These are augmented by a network of electronic warfare systems, which disrupt drones' navigation, forcing them to ground, to miss their intended targets, or even in some cases, to return to sender in Russia. In terms of shooting the drones down, the first layer is Ukraine's fighter jets, including Soviet-era Su-27s and its US-made F-16s and French Mirage 2000s. Missiles fired from these jets have proven pretty effective at taking down high-value arrivals like cruise and ballistic missiles. However, Ukraine has few of them. They're expensive to operate and maintain, stockpiles of the missiles they fire are in short supply, and they're not cost-effective solutions against Russian drones that are much cheaper. The next layer is Ukraine's network of traditional missile-based air defense systems, such as its US-made MIM-104 Patriot and German Iris-T systems. They've proven effective against incoming high-value missiles and drones alike, and are typically placed to protect Ukraine's key cities and infrastructure. However, much like the fighter jet situation, these high-end launchers and the missiles they fire are also limited in number, both inside Ukraine and in the stockpiles of its allies. The missiles themselves can also be much costlier than Gerans, making them a far from ideal solution for bringing down these noisy, destructive pests. At the base of the layered anti-defense network are mobile fire groups. These are essentially small mobile units on vehicles mounted with heavy machine guns. They're numerous, highly mobile, quick to deploy, and systems like the German Flak Panzer Gepard have proven very effective at bringing down common Geran variants, along with a plethora of other Russian reconnaissance drones and loitering munitions. The Gepard features twin 35mm Oerlikon KDA autocannons, firing a combined rate of 1,100 rounds per minute. Paired with an S-band surveillance radar, with a detection range of roughly 9 miles, and a Q-band tracking radar, it's ideally suited for engaging fast-moving, low-flying drones like the Geran and Geran 2 variants. The Gepard fires high-explosive and sub-caliber 35mm ammunition that detonates near the target or tears through it at extreme velocity, creating a dense cloud of fragments in the drone's flight path. The result is a very high probability of kill against drones and loitering munitions. More importantly, a single ahead shell is estimated to cost around $1,000, compared to Gerans, which are estimated to cost between $20,000 and $100,000 depending on the variant, warhead, and other included features. This ammunition is also much more plentiful and quick to produce than Interceptor missiles. That means, compared to missile-based systems, the Gepard offers a low cost-to-kill ratio, allowing Ukraine to preserve its limited and expensive missile stocks for higher impact threats like Iskander arrivals. As a result of these advantages, the Gepard and other similar mobile machine gun-based systems have become key components of Ukraine's anti-drone defense. However, there are limits. While they're quick and cost-effective to deploy, and thus ideal for shoot-and-scoot operations, machine guns are only able to engage targets at limited altitudes and relatively low speeds. They're perfect for defending against the standard low-flying moderate-speed Geran 1s and 2s. However, in recent months, Russians have adapted Gerans to fly at much higher altitudes, beyond the range of machine guns. The newer Geran 3 drones are also jet-powered as compared to the propeller-driven earlier iterations, greatly increasing their cruising speed and making it harder for slower-moving bullets and shells to bring them down. In addition to a dozen or more Russian missiles, Ukraine's air defenses must contend with anywhere from 100 to 600 long-range drones on a nightly basis. Many of those are much cheaper Gebera decoy drones, specifically designed to distract and use up precious air defenses, with payload-bearing Gerans flying through the gap that process creates. If these drones are flying beyond the reach of its gun-based defenses, Ukraine is basically left with two bad options: using its limited and expensive missiles to bring them down, or bracing for impact. It's a tricky challenge for Ukraine to overcome. It needs a drone killer that has the range of an Interceptor missile, but is as quick and cost-effective to produce as a shell. In response to this challenge, Ukraine has introduced a new layer to its anti-drone war, and it's arguably the one with the most promise: Interceptor drones. In essence, this involves using small, cheap, high-speed drones to shoot down the much larger Gerans and other Russian loitering munitions, like the BM-35 Italmas. It's an ingenious solution that solves both parts of the challenge. Firstly, the drones being used as Geran-killing projectiles are essentially modified FPV drones of the type in ubiquitous use by Ukraine on the front lines. Ukraine has reportedly been producing hundreds of thousands of these drones monthly since 2024. So producing thousands of Interceptor drones monthly is not only extremely doable, but for the most part without foreign assistance. These Interceptor drones also typically only cost $3,000 to $5,000 to produce. That may be several times more than a Gepard shell, but it's several times cheaper still than even a low-end $20,000 Geran. With the new improved jet-powered Geran 3 and Geran 5 variants estimated to cost upwards of $100,000, these cheap Interceptor drones are a seriously cost-effective way to take them out. The available evidence suggests they're also pretty effective, with an average success rate of 68%, according to President Volodymyr Zelensky. In July, he set a target of production of 1,500 FPV-type Interceptor drones a day, and by the end of the year, that target had reportedly been met. It's an impressive feat, and one that likely enables Ukraine to build up a stockpile. Although Russia reportedly has the capacity to pump out 500 Gerans and Geberas a day, it typically only uses a fraction of those in its nightly raids, meaning it's almost certainly building up a stockpile itself. If Russia ever decides to launch the mega strikes involving thousands of Gerans that have often been predicted but never materialized, a large stockpile of Interceptor drones will be worth its weight in gold. Indeed, with so much focus on Interceptor drones in Ukraine these days, and in light of its well-documented struggles to reliably secure high-end systems and interceptor missiles from partners, where does the Tempest fit into its air defense matrix? Well, for starters, it's unclear just how many Tempest systems Ukraine already has. The footage revealed so far only verifies a single system, and given how new the system is in general, it's highly unlikely that there are more than a couple of Tempests in active service with the Ukrainian armed forces at present. Still, if it's as effective as Shorty says it is, and if it's deployed at scale, it could slot neatly into Ukraine's air defenses as another oblique layer. If Interceptor drones fill the gap between missiles and guns, the Tempest mobility and ruggedness could fill a gap between Interceptor drones and Ukraine's existing high-end missile-based air defense systems. For the most part, Ukraine's Patriot, Iris-T, and other high-end land-based systems are kept well away from the front lines. They guard key cities and facilities in the rear from Russian Iskander, Kalibr, Kinzhal, and Kh-101 missile strikes, and are used sparingly due to the ongoing shortage of replacement interceptor missiles. Ukraine's Gepards and other machine gun-based mobile defenses are also predominantly found in the rear, protecting the same cities from the Gerans that typically accompany the missile strikes. The fact that they're vehicle-mounted gives them shoot-and-scoot capabilities that will make them just as effective on the front lines. But that's not where Russia tends to target its Gerans. Russia primarily uses Fab glide bombs, fiber-optic FPV drones, and artillery on the front lines, not loitering munitions. Gerans are for power stations, ships loaded with Ukrainian grain, and multi-story apartment buildings far from the meat grinder of the front lines. Now, in the same rear high-value defense setting, the Tempest would likely only add marginal value to Ukraine's air defenses, especially in places where Patriot or Iris-T systems are also in place. The Tempest's longbow missile only has a range of around 5 miles, compared to the Patriot PAC-3's 112 miles and Iris-T SLM's 25 miles. Its effective altitude is also significantly lower, 20,000 feet, as compared to the PAC-3's 120,000 feet and the SLM's 66,000 feet. So they're only really effective against low-altitude targets and offer a much shorter engagement window than their more illustrious counterparts. Then again, at less than $150,000 each, longbows are 2 to 4 times cheaper than SLM missiles and much cheaper than PAC-3s, which go for $4 to $7 million each. There are also likely to be substantial stockpiles of Hellfire missiles available for use with Tempest. By 2021, more than 87,000 Hellfires of all variants had been produced, with estimates suggesting that roughly 10,000 to 14,000 of those were AGM-114L longbow missiles specifically, and many of those appear yet to be expended. But with more cost-effective Gepards and Interceptor drones also in the mix for targeting low-flying Gerans, it's hard to make a case for mass deployment of Tempest in a rear setting. However, on and close to the front lines, the Tempest might give Ukraine an edge, a missile-based air defense system that can be quickly deployed almost anywhere, fire, and disappear before the Russians even know it's there. The missile launchers are installed on either side of the vehicle's roof, giving the Tempest a balanced elevated firing platform with wide engagement arcs. The longbow missiles are fire and forget, so once they're launched, the vehicle doesn't need to stay in contact with them, dramatically reducing operator exposure time. They can fall back almost immediately after launch, then rapidly rearm and redeploy, making the Tempest ideal for the quick and in-and-out operations so vital on the battlefield. Over and above the mobility provided by its 4x4 chassis, the Tempest lightness also makes it suitable for frontline use. Besides being driven into place, it can be deployed from transport aircraft, moved by light logistics, and sustained with commercially available parts. Add it all up, and you can see how a fleet of several dozen, or preferably 100 Tempests spread across the front line could make a massive difference to Ukraine. They'd provide Ukraine with a kind of first-line missile-based air defense system, enabling it to engage Gerans much closer to the front line and thus further than their ultimate targets. The longbow's ability to precisely strike land-based targets, as well as drones, means that the Tempest would simultaneously provide Ukraine with a HIMARS kind of option, with a smaller range and less destructive power, but much more mobility and less financial impact to replace. Like all weapon systems, there are of course a few limitations to the Tempest, or at least what is known about its current early incarnation. The radar's narrow field of view means it depends on a broader sensor network to provide early warning and target data. That means it's not entirely independent, which can be a vulnerability. Also, the Tempest 2 missile payload means it has limited capacity to respond to drone swarm attacks, unless deployed in numbers or paired with additional support systems. Still, in the emerging era of decentralized, fast-paced air warfare, these limitations should be seen more as tactical constraints than strategic flaws at this point. No doubt, like so many other weapon systems, the capabilities of the current Tempest will be refined and enhanced thanks to the combat experience gained in Ukraine. If it lives up to its initial promise as a Geran killer, we can expect to see the Tempest in much wider use, both in Ukraine and possibly by the US Army as well. We'll of course keep you updated with Tempest developments, as we do with all the most innovative new military hardware. So subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out. Thanks for watching.